Through 3 weeks, the Minnesota Vikings have been the best team in the NFC. But the Packers have a key matchup advantage. Plus, our pal Zhao joins us today for a Zhao You Doing Wednesday.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts. You will find Locked On Packers, the #1 Packers podcast on the internet. And the show for fans who know what happened, they want to know why and how. Thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. We hope you like starting your day with us as much as we like starting our day with you. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at Gametime. Download the Gametime app today. Create an account and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first ticket purchase. What time is it? Gametime. Through 3 weeks in the NFL, the best team in the NFC is the Minnesota Vikings. And had I not watched the games on Monday night, I might have said the best team in the NFL has been the Minnesota Vikings. After watching the games, the best team in the NFL right now is the Buffalo Bills. We don't have to fret too much about that, but the best team in the NFC through 3 games is the Minnesota Vikings. They beat the 49ers. We'll see how impressive that is. 49ers lost to the AAA LA Rams over the weekend. Then they beat the crap out of the Houston Texans. It might get me in trouble, but we will see how good that win ends up being. Look at what the Texans have done. They barely beat the Colts, a team the Packers smacked with a backup quarterback. They beat the Bears, who might just stink, especially offensively, cannot block anybody. And then got absolutely dominated by Sam Darnold and the Minnesota Vikings. How good is that team really? I was always dubious of that team. Why? Okay. All right, but offensively, Kevin O'Connell has unlocked Sam Darnold. He's playing with confidence. They're getting the ball to their playmakers. Aaron Jones has given them balance. And offensively, they're doing more or less what I thought they would do. I thought they would be a good offense even with Sam Darnold. I also thought there'd be more variance. I thought Darnold would make more mistakes. He hasn't so far. It's very early. I mean, we're talking not even a fifth of the way into the season. It's the defense that is playing in ways that I didn't think they could. Now, they added some pieces in the offseason. I thought they downgraded from Danielle Hunter to Jonathan Grenard. I still think that's true. But they upgraded some of these other spots. Andrew Van Ginkel, Stephon Gilmore. They're better at some spots than they were last year. The Gilmore signing was not one I understood in the moment because I didn't think they'd be very good without, frankly, even with J.J. McCarthy, I didn't think they'd be very good. They've exceeded those expectations. But if the Packers are going to beat the Minnesota Vikings, who again have been the best team in the NFC, it's going to be because the interior of this Minnesota Vikings offensive line is just not good enough. Blake Brandel, a player I swear I did not make up, has actually been pretty good in pass protection. But Garrett Bradbury is 32 out of 33 qualifying centers in pressures allowed this season. He's given up 10 in 3 games. Right guard Ed Ingram is 60th out of 63 qualifying guards in pressures allowed. He's given up 10. Christian Darrisaw is 49th out of 59th qualifying offensive tackles in pressures allowed. He's given up 7. Brian O'Neill is 39th out of 59th in offensive tackles, allowing pressures. He's given up 5. This was an offensive line that, by the consensus, was well ahead of the Green Bay Packers coming into the season. Oh, Christian Darrisaw, Brian O'Neill, they're proven studs. The Packers have clearly been better along the interior, along the exterior, everywhere overall this season. And in fact, if you look at the aggregate of the true pass set grade, tackle, guard, center, this is something Ben Baldwin has put together. The Minnesota Vikings right now are 31st in true pass set grade, in large part because the guards and the centers, the center, have been bad in pass protection. Now, this has been offset somewhat by the fact that they've been able to run the ball effectively on early downs. They've been able to play action on early downs. And so they're not in a lot of 3rd and 8s, 3rd and 9s, 3rd and 12s, where they're in must-pass situations and Sam Darnold has to go be Sam Darnold. Packers, very much the same. But that's where the Packers can take advantage this week because they have Devontae Wyatt. They have Kenny Clark. They have this NASCAR package that they are trotting out on the field where they are putting Preston Smith, Lucas Van Ness, and Kingsley Enagbare on one side of the formation, and they're putting Rashawn Gary on the other. And they're saying, we dare you to block all of these guys. And now, just for fun, here's Quay Walker on a looping blitz. Here's Edgerrin Cooper off the other side. Jeff Hafley in his bag in the second half against the Tennessee Titans. The Packers, over the next 3 weeks, play the 3 worst teams in aggregate true pass set grade. They play the Titans, they're 30th. The Vikings this week are 31st, and the LA Rams are 32nd. They play LA the week after. This pass rush, this is the week that Kenny Clark gets right. This is the week that Rashawn Gary creates opportunities because I don't think they're just going to put him on one side and go rush Christian Darrisaw or go rush Brian O'Neill. I think they're going to do some of the things that they're doing with some of these other rushers and say, you against Ed Ingram, for example, go do that. This is where the Packers have a clear advantage. This offensive line, which, look, give them credit. Christian Darrisaw and Brian O'Neill played well against the Houston Texans last week. Will Anderson, Danielle Hunter, they ate up the Chicago Bears. But that Bears offensive line might just be truly, truly terrible. Like truly terrible. Genuinely awful and terrible. And amusing to me personally. This Packers front with Jeff Hafley, they're going to attack Sam Darnold. And this is where I think the Packers can win this game. Because if Jordan Love plays, and I think Jordan Love is going to play, the last time he saw Brian Flores' defense, he had every answer. Matt LaFleur had every answer for Brian Flores' defense. And they've evolved the personnel. They've changed it up. Brian Flores is going to have some new wrinkles Matt LaFleur hasn't seen before, and maybe that's going to be something that impacts his game. It's not going to be fun if you're Jordan Love, your first game back, and you got to deal with Brian Flores and all the moving pieces, all the coverage disguises, all the all-out pressures that they're going to bring. Andrew Van Ginkel has been, in a lot of ways, a revelation for them because they didn't have a player like that before. Harrison Smith is covering incredible amounts of ground. I frankly just don't think they have the talent to deal with all of the pieces that the Green Bay Packers can bring to bear with the schematic advantages the Packers already know they can create. That's why the defensive front can win this football game. They can put pressure on Sam Darnold. They can make it difficult for them to get the ball to their playmakers. And they can have Sam Darnold, who I said yesterday, the thing that he is most famous for in the NFL is seeing ghosts. They can have Sam Darnold seeing ghosts, and that's how you beat this Minnesota Vikings team. All right, our pal Lily Zhao, she is with us next here on Locked On Packers. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, see live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You could check out the Packers-Vikings line. Packers are 2.5-point favorites at home. Clearly, FanDuel thinks that either Jordan Love is going to play, or Malik Willis is awesome, or some combination of the Vikings are frauds and the Packers are really, really good. I think the Packers are really, really good. I don't think the Vikings are frauds for once. You can get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place that first $5 bet. So maybe you like the Packers -2.5. Maybe you like the Vikings +2.5. You get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place that $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com to get started. The Green Bay Packers are 2-0 with Malik Willis. We're not sure if it's going to be Malik Willis or Jordan Love this week against the Minnesota Vikings, but the Green Bay Packers now sit at 2-1, sort of where we thought they would be coming into this part of the season. Lily Zhao from Fox 6 in Milwaukee joins us now to answer a Malik Willis themed question. Lily, how you doing?
Peter, I'm doing well. I was hoping you were going to say what you're talking about Willis, just throw that in there. But
you could have switched it up. Yeah.
Yeah. It's been fun watching him play in his 2 starts. So listen, I have enjoyed these last 2 weeks. It's been fun to watch. I'm sure it's been fun for the players as well, but I am doing well. I can't believe we're a month into the season now, which is kind of crazy to talk about, but I'm doing well. How you doing?
I'm good. There's very little I think we can take away ultimately from the first 3 weeks, just because this is like an extended preseason, which means our expectations going into these games, we shouldn't count them that much, I don't think, because we don't know that much right now. But you and I both thought last week the Packers had a good chance, even with Malik Willis, to go in and beat the Titans. 30-14, I don't think was on the bingo card. How surprised were you that not just that they won, but that they won like that?
I was surprised. I knew that despite Will Levis making Will Levis mistakes, I mean, he still was playing well. I mean,
Yeah.
you take the turnovers out of it. I mean, he was playing decently. And we saw that, the Titans defense get after the Bears in week 1, how ferocious they were. And, certainly Levis has a lot of good skill players as well around him. So I thought it was going to be a closer game because, A, you're on the road. B, the Titans have film of Malik Willis now to kind of, analyze and see what they do. But obviously this game plan was a lot different than the Colts. They weren't going to run it 50 plus times. You're going to do a run pass offense. And that was pleasant to see, but I don't think I expected a 16-point win over the Titans on the road in his second career start for the Packers. But I think I also didn't anticipate the defense playing the way that they did. So that's a credit to them and a credit to Malik Willis for what he was able to do. So surprising, but happy with the result.
I'm going to ask you a question that I tried to answer yesterday on our show. The Packers lead the league in turnovers right now, lead the league in interceptions right now. I'm going to give you 3 choices as to who deserves the most credit here, okay? Jeff Hafley, the new defensive coordinator, the general manager who put together this roster, or 3 quarterbacks who are, I think, the 3 most turnover-prone quarterbacks in the league through 3 weeks. Who deserves the most credit for this?
Can I say all of them? No, I'm just kidding.
The problem is, Lily, that was my answer. So I'm going to say no. You have to pick.
Ooh, that's a good question. Maybe I'll just say the GM because, with what Brian Gutekunst, sorry, his hair is just, anyway, with what Brian Gutekunst has been able to do just in terms of building the roster, he's able to bring Xavier McKinney in, right? He's able to bring in an interception machine. And then, of course, you have Jair already in the system, and he's a guy that they drafted. So
I was going to say, Brian Gutekunst drafted Jair Alexander. That counts.
Right. Yeah, that counts. And so, you're talking about, your 2 top playmakers there in the secondary, and with what he's been able to do with defense, the guys up front that he's brought in, and, they're coming after quarterbacks left and right. But in terms of the takeaways, it's, guys like Cooper, Kingsley Enagbare, Lucas Van Ness, like they're going after the football. So that's a credit to Brian Gutekunst and his ability to scout and draft those guys and bring them in. But of course, they're playing under a system that helps them in that regard. And of course, you're talking about they're playing quarterbacks who are turnover prone. But I would say give Goody some applause for the guys that he's brought in who are making the big plays out there.
I ultimately landed yesterday on Jeff Hafley, but I think in a lot of ways, isn't this just a validation of Brian Gutekunst? Because we were wondering, right, at the end of the Joe Barry experience, we're going, okay, if they bring in another defensive coordinator and they can't make this work, at a certain point, we have to start asking questions. Are these guys really as talented as we thought they were? And at least as of last week, the answer is yes.
Yes, certainly, because there's always been that narrative of, oh, this defense has X amount of first-round draft picks on the defense. And, oh, they're underperforming yet again. And you look at the other defenses in the league, which maybe they don't have the quote-unquote first-rounders, but they're just a more talented unit as a whole. And so I think we were kind of wondering, is there a defensive coordinator they could bring in to really unlock everything? And it seems like 3 weeks into the season, they've found their guy in Jeff Hafley. And you looked at the pass rush got so much better. Granted that, Titans offensive line, very young, but they did their job, right? We talked about it last week. If they're not going to get to the quarterback against the Titans, there might be an issue. And guess what? They got after the quarterback with this Titans offensive line, 8 sacks. So they showed up there today, but I think it really is just kind of a validation of what this team has been able to do when you bring in the right defensive coordinator to get the most out of your really talented players. And now they're playing cohesively, and the takeaways are showing it.
How about this, Lily? I was just thinking about this earlier. So Devontae Wyatt outsnapped TJ Slayton last week. If Edgerrin Cooper were to outsnap Isaiah McDuffie this week, and Wyatt outsnaps TJ Slayton again, every single, their top 11 defenders would all be top 100 draft picks. Not necessarily that they drafted because Preston Smith is a free agent signing, but that is major pedigree on a defense. And to have Jeff Hafley come in, by the way, this Vikings offensive line, especially on the interior, is gettable. Garrett Bradbury, Ed Ingram, there's some problems there. Let's shift our focus now to the Minnesota Vikings. I'm going to ask you another one of these how surprised are you questions, because I'll speak for me. I thought the Vikings were going to be one of the worst teams in the NFC coming into this season. Through 3 weeks, they're the best team in the NFC by my eyes. Just by what we've seen on the field for the last 3 weeks, I don't know how you can pick a team that's been better than the Minnesota Vikings. So rather than just how surprised are you, how about this? What do you think is working that you weren't sure would work coming into the year?
Sam Darnold. And that's not an
that's the easy
indictment
answer, right?
on him. Yeah, I think it was the whole offseason. It was JJ McCarthy. When's he going to take over for Sam Darnold? Or, how many weeks does poor Sam Darnold last until JJ McCarthy dethrones him as the starting quarterback for the Vikings? And JJ McCarthy is out with an injury for the year. What does Sam Darnold do? Proves everybody wrong. Says, I obviously was the right guy for the job, and I'm going to hold on to it, because what he's been able to do the last 3 weeks has been crazy. I mean, he leads the league in passing touchdowns with 8 already in the first 3 weeks. He's been incredible. And I think just having that quarterback play be elevated the way it has, again, it's early, but with how well Sam Darnold is playing, and he has obviously very good skilled players around him, I thought that was the biggest thing, because you can talk about the defense, the offensive line. Aaron Jones comes to town. You have Justin Jefferson. But what was that offense going to look like with the quarterback if he wasn't up to par? And so far, Sam Darnold certainly has proved me wrong, and I think probably everybody outside of Minnesota wrong.
I think, too, in addition to Sam Darnold, I thought Kevin O'Connell would get him playing better. I thought the Packers and some other teams had figured out this Brian Flores defense. I thought that was a solved problem. And it turns out very much not a solved problem. Brian Flores, a very good defensive coordinator. And it's going to take, I think, a very good game plan from Matt LaFleur, and really good quarterback play from whoever is under center. I want to stick on the Vikings for a second before we do quarterback here. What is going to be the key for the Packers against the Vikings? That's next with Lily Zhao on Locked On Packers. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at BetterHelp. What's something you'd love to learn? As an adult, do you make time to learn new things as often as you'd like? Or was that lost in childhood? I was just having this conversation with my wife. We were watching a show on TV and it was taking place in another country. And we were like, man, it'd be really nice. Let's learn Italian together. Let's do it together. Let's keep each other accountable. Therapy can help you reconnect with your sense of wonder because your back to school era can come at any age. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire and get matched with a licensed therapist. Plus, you can switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Rediscover your curiosity with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon to get 10% off that first month. Visit BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. And thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers your first listen every day. Now for your second listen, go find Locked On NFL with 2 shows every day. First, the madman Tyler Rowland kicks off your morning with a double shot of NFL espresso. Then stop by the barbershop with Tony Wiggins for some real NFL talk. Find Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Aaron Jones revenge game. I don't know how much acrimony is actually there from Aaron Jones' side, but he has added an element to this offense, created some balance where there wasn't some last year. If you're Jeff Hafley and you're in that room, are you going, hey, look, if we can make them one-dimensional, if we can stop Aaron Jones, that makes life harder for Sam Darnold? Or is your focus, hey, let's keep doing what we've been doing. Let's try and get some turnovers out of Sam Darnold. Let's focus there. And that's the way to approach this. What do you think is the move here?
I think you have to focus on Sam Darnold. I mean, there was, I think, that one touchdown pass to Justin Jefferson where he's back to in his own end zone. They go for 97 yards or whatever for the touchdown. I mean, you can't discount him, but I think if you try to make him quote unquote one-dimensional, Aaron Jones will beat you. I mean, hopefully this is not a Aaron Jones, Dallas Cowboys kind of game where he puts up 6 touchdowns, right, against the Packers. But I think Sam Darnold is key here. If you can kind of get in his mind or pressure him or take the ball away, right, that obviously keeps the offense off the field, but it gives, it might fluster Sam Darnold. Obviously, I'm glad his knee is okay. He was a little bit dinged up last week in their win. But you want to get after him because the offense runs through him. But, I think even if you take away Aaron Jones and make Darnold try to beat you through the air, he certainly will. So I think it starts with him, get to him, and then maybe that'll trickle down to the rest of the offense not being able to perform the way that they have in the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, and it's not just Sam Darnold, right? Like when Sam Darnold throws the ball, look at who he's throwing to. Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson. I don't even know why I started with Jordan Addison, but Justin Jefferson, like if he's getting the ball to Justin Jefferson, like that throw, that 97-yarder you're talking about is mostly Justin Jefferson. Like it's a good throw. But then it's Justin Jefferson takes crazy angles and he weaves and meanders his way to a 9. Those are the plays that you can't have happen. He makes a good throw and it turns into an incredible play because Justin Jefferson is that good. So to your point, I think that has to be the focus. The way to me is to pressure them and pressure them up the middle. We saw Jeff Hafley on Sunday in his bag with some of these pass rush moves. 3 guys to one side with Rashawn Gary opposite, overload blitzes, things that we just didn't see in the first 2 weeks. And I feel like you got to try stuff like that against Sam Darnold, get him thinking, get him worried about where the pressure is coming. Cause remember, this is a guy whose most famous moment in the NFL to date is I'm seeing ghosts.
Yeah. Very true.
So the Packers offensive side of this, Brian Flores, he was the defensive coordinator when Jordan Love lit them up at the end of last year, right? They had some injuries in that game too. Nick Mullins was the quarterback, or Jaron Hall started the game in Minnesota, right? And then they went to Nick Mullins because Jaron Hall was so bad. Jordan Love playing is a big deal here. What has anything that's happened over the last 2 weeks changed the way that you feel about what we talked about last week? Like, hey, he was actually close. Because I know that there are still some people in the media even, who still believe this has all been gamesmanship and all nonsense, and we still don't really know that much about how close Jordan is to playing.
I don't think so. As much as I would like to believe that, it's gamemanship and maybe he's a lot further out, or he's not close to playing as close as we thought. I don't think that's the case. We did see him warm up before the Packers-Titans game.
Looks pretty good.
He looked pretty good. And Matt LaFleur said they knew they weren't going to play him. So that was more of a conditioning workout for Jordan. But if I guess this was a different part of the year and there was much more at stake, I probably would have expected him to play. So I do think, and this is just an inkling for me, I do think we see him against the Vikings because I think there just needs to be just a tick up of quarterback play. Not saying Malik Willis couldn't get the job done again, but you kind of need that X factor with Jordan Love when you're facing Brian Flores and this Vikings defense because they look darn good. So I think if the Packers want to match them in that regard and potentially even match them on the offensive side to score points, go touchdown for touchdown, you need Jordan Love back. So I think the game plan all along hopefully was for him to come back in week 4 and just kind of ride the wave of what Malik Willis could do. And fortunately, that was a 2-0 record for him. So I think
what a wave it was.
Right. And so my feeling is Jordan comes back, but also on the other side of that is you got to protect him because you don't want anything else to happen to that knee.
And in a way, like this is one of the toughest weeks for him to have to come back because all of the pre-snap stuff to come back and have to do, the live bullet thing when those are the bullets, like Brian Flores, no one is crazier pre-snap, post-snap at getting this stuff in the quarterback's mind. Like, okay, it's going to be this. And then all of a sudden it's this. Like maybe Matt LaFleur has some solves for that. They tried to do it in that second game and they had all sorts of answers for it. Jordan Love has become a master of the cadence like Aaron Rodgers to use that to try and get some tells and figure out what's going on there. But man, it's gonna be a tough week for Jordan Love to come back. I wonder how much of the Malik Willis stuff, some of these interesting runs, the unique single wing stuff and the pre-snap motion, the Packers lead the league in pre-snap motion. I wonder how much of that stuff is translatable. Like how much do you think that they can port over? Because I feel like they can't say, well, that was just the Malik Willis stuff. And now we can't use any of that. Now it's just, let's just run the offense. Like, I feel like that's not the move here. What do you think?
Yeah, I think certainly that stuff is translatable. And it's not like Jordan can't run, right? We know Jordan Love certainly has a set of wheels on him. So I think
it's like running zone read. Like you probably are not going to do that.
No. But I'm saying a lot of that stuff maybe that they were doing with Malik can be translatable to Jordan. But and you think about Matt LaFleur is not going to create a whole completely different offense just for Malik for, however many weeks. So I would believe those things are translatable. I think you need to have them because just watching this Vikings defense, especially in that first half against the Texans last week, I think CJ Stroud and the Texans offense probably played their worst half of football to date. So they really got after him. So I think anything that Matt LaFleur has in his bag, any motion, anything that he can implement to make things a little bit easier for Jordan, if it is Jordan coming back there, just to keep this defense on their toes, they certainly need it. So if it's anything that Malik was able to do to translate it to Jordan, they got to have it because I think this will be a really, really good week to see what LaFleur can concoct. If Jordan is back against a really good defense, I'm just excited for this chess match that we might see on Sunday.
Coach of the year against coach of the year candidate. I mean, that's what we're looking at here. That's exciting. If you're a Packers fan, if you're a Vikings fan, you're probably hoping, please make me believe Malik Willis. We'd rather not see Jordan Love after the way that it went the last time. But look, I think if you're a Vikings fan, honestly, you probably want to beat the Packers at full strength, just like the Packers. If you're a Packers fan, you want to see Sam Darnold out there. Let's go beat them, at their best, and we'll see. And if they do, the Packers, you and I get to talk about it next week. If they don't, we still get to talk about it. Thanks, Lily.
Thanks, Peter.
All right. Thanks to Lily for joining the show. Always great to talk with her. We've got Luke Braun on the show tomorrow, a crossover Thursday as we get you set for Packers Vikings, one of the marquee matchups of the weekend. Follow me on all the social medias, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on all the social medias, Locked On Packers. That's TikTok, that's Instagram, that's YouTube. Wherever you get podcasts, go subscribe on any and all platforms so you can stay Locked On Packers.